And gotta respect Black Dragons because if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Going for that middle Phoenix was a good idea from the Brazilians, but they didn't really understand how much retaliation would be coming their way with that Janus mobility, making them respawn Wlfy through space and time, chasing everyone down. And that's why Janus is just such a popular pick that I'm still surprised that teams aren't prioritizing so much because you can punish teams very easily for overstepping or vice versa. You can get your team into safety after making those hyper-aggressive plays.
Well, game number 2, and actually this is going to be very interesting. Black Dragons, again, the loser of the game gets to choose if they have first or second pick in the next one. And BD are actually going to go for that secondary selection, something that we don't see all that often out of these, or today. But with that said, Toli, a lot of that comes from, I think, solo lane wanting to give Kliz that opportunity.
Potentially, but when you get zGonnZ before secondary ban phase,
you'll take it.
You don't really need that counter matchup any longer. Rival committing to the same strategy with the Sylvanas, still awaiting their second ban. If it's going to be the Ram, that means that they're going to go for another dual lane pressure comp.
So if Rival go ahead and let's say they don't first pick Janus, Nann's Thoth is incredibly strong, but do you go Janus anyway?
Potentially, like
just to take it away.
They first picked the Ratatoskr, which I don't mind necessarily. There was 2 globals at Arrival. It was a Ratatoskr Janus versus only the Chernobog global on BD. So Rival had those 2 options covered. If you first pick the Janus, I'm not mad about it. But the Capri ban, it makes a lot of sense. It was annoying trying to find some of those picks, despite how many kills both teams acquired throughout that game.
The question is, does Black Dragons pick the Ram right here, or do they wait for their third selection? Because I don't think it's making past the secondary ban phase.
It definitely is not making past secondary ban, but you don't have to pick it in the first 2 spots. I don't think Rival are going to prioritize the Ram for vote, knowing how aggressive he likes to play.
I think the conversation with Rival is zGonnZ or Nah, and it's going to be Nah. Thoth, the pick right here, stripping that away from Nann. I like that pick. Rival definitely got killed by the mid lane Thoth guy a couple of times here. Ratatoskr taken away from iceicebaby. Extremely smart. I mean, he had a couple of multi-kills.
And that was with a Janus. If you add a Rat with a Thoth instead, you're looking for just even more wombo combo damage. Chernobog will be the secondary selection, and already going for 2 global gods. Black Dragons really understanding that that game 1 was difficult when there was a Janus.
Rival, their selection here, trying to decide if they want the zGonnZ for themselves or if they'll let Black Dragons get it, because if it's not selected here, Toli, I almost can guarantee that it'll be the third choice for Black Dragons. Rival giving some heavy consideration to this one. And I need to reiterate, this is an international team from Brazil going up against the Spring Split champions. And, you know, you don't have to take my word for it. I saw a professional player, it was Panicat actually, that said, look, Rival just might lose this game if they keep playing aggressive like this. Black Dragons are a team that you absolutely have to pay the respect to.
Out of all the international teams, Black Dragons, the most formidable. Ram is the
look
selection.
Look at that.
It's surprising considering that Black Dragons already have their hunter of choice, so you don't have to take that god away from MarcelZ since Chernobog selected, but it could be, yes, it is the fast attack speed draft. Fafnir with Ram, you add a Thoth wall to it, so all these extended range, well, not extended range, but all the range attacks get additional bonus damage on objectives, on towers, and in team fights.
2 gods that need to be involved here. Janus selected, like that choice. 2 gods that need to be involved here, zGonnZ and Kumbhakarna. I'd like to see Black Dragons opt for Kumbhakarna in the support role, something that actually does compete very well with these high attack speed drafts.
Could also be the Odin, potentially. You know,
yes,
you shut down the Ram in terms of getting out, maybe force out a defensive ultimate. Also has a lot of anti-attack speed if you get stuck in the cage. And then just the obnoxious ability to force the Phantoms instead of other team fighting relics.
Ban phase here as Janus is taken. Black Dragons, interesting here, just did not want to get that banned away from them in the secondary ban phase. Naja, that's iceicebaby's go-to character. I think that is, you know, it's funny to say that I think Ice Ice is consistently strong with a lot of his god pool. It's hard to say one character better than another, but the Naja is what comes to mind to me.
For me, out of all the gods I've seen iceicebaby play, I think I've never seen him play better than he has when he pilots the Susano.
Really?
Back in Season 4, when obviously there was a different passive at the time, he was just remarkable. His mechanics, being able to throw everyone for a loop, it allowed him to make a lot of hyper-aggressive plays. But we could definitely see a lot more throughout his evolution from zGonnZ in Season 3 to now at the Summerland.
2 more bans here for game number 2. Black Dragons in their bank time. Gonz there on stage. And it's going to be a Hercules ban. Rival have looked strong on that character, I suppose. Why do you see the Hercules ban here?
Hercules is one of the soul laners of choice for a few players. Aquarius comes to mind. Benji comes to mind. But out of Europe, Hercules not as popular. It leads me to believe that there was going to be a mage, potentially a zGonnZ banned away out of Rival. So looking for a good, comfortable matchup where Chulainn doesn't have to struggle. And a rotating Hercules is very annoying to deal with. But a rotating Sun Wukong, not too shabby either.
Yeah, Sun Wukong right there. And Clairvoyant Anatoly. It should be your side job. You should tell fortunes because you definitely predicted this Susano selection for the jungler on Rival. Black Dragons right now look like they need a support player if Chulainn is not going to wind up in the hands of PIBE, which I doubt it will. And again, I don't think we're going to see Polar Bear Mike's Ratatoskr special here for Black Dragons. Like I said, I would like to see a Kumbhakarna, but there are plenty of options available for the Brazilian squad.
Sobek wouldn't be a bad idea to get some anti-healing Ymir for the wall potential. Ram, Thoth, Susano. Sun Wukong can't really get out of that without use of that ultimate out of Sun Wukong. So that wouldn't be a bad idea. Odin, but then you're investing into more physical. That wouldn't be bad. Kabrakan has another wall. So anything to shut down the mobility of Rival, not having these leaps, a good selection.
Kabrakan, that's quite an interesting thought process. I wouldn't mind seeing that either. Does PIBE have it in the God pool is a bigger question. Not many supports do. But Terra, I mean, Earth is... This is a very, very nice look.
Team fighting is the name of the game at Smite, and the way this first game panned out, it could lead to some late game scuffles where that one Earth and Fury will tip the scales to Black Dragon's side.
Wonderful drafts here from both sides. Rival looking more for the late game, obviously. Thoth, Ram, certainly late game characters. Although Sun Wukong and Susano mid-game monsters. Black Dragons on the other side, again, more late game oriented, but Rat will bring early game pressure. Chulainn will handle things in the mid game. Terra always has the ultimate post level 5. Black Dragons, a much more balanced composition, but Rival, if things go late, things go great.
I think Black Dragons are focusing on solo lane. With all 3 of those first picks being global pressure, we can see this Chulainn versus Sun Wukong start favoring Kliz, actually. I think that Deathwalker going for a little bit of an unorthodox picks, going for safe clear, right? Like, you're always going for 3 gods if you're looking for safe clear. You're looking for Sun Wukong, Vamana, and Chak to avoid sort of boxing exchanges. You can still cudgel the melee minions. You don't have to commit to the whole entire wave. And that could be the thought process for Deathwalker.
Well, right now, after game number 1, I certainly think a lot of fans' minds might have been shifted. Who is going to win game 2? Will it be the Spring Split champions, or will the Brazilian underdog stretch this set out to a game number 3? You know, I think that is certainly a possibility after seeing their prowess in game number 1.
I mean, the fact that they took away a Phoenix as well. I don't think any of the other international teams even stripped away a Phoenix.
Very, very fun stuff. Game number 2 on the way. John Finch and the best taco.
Thanks, F. Thanks, Anatoly, as we move into game 2 between Rival and Black Dragons. In game 1, Black Dragons certainly put the scare into Rival, got very close to being able to grab that game, but just could not finish it off. Rival proving too strong. And yet again, Black Dragons have a very powerful draft with the Janus, Ratatoskr for the global presence, as well as the Chernobog.
I feel like you mentioned something to me, Finch, before this game started with a certain Deathwalker individual over there in the soul lane. Would you mind shedding some light on that situation?
Yeah, I had to call my man out here. I talked to him like, "We're gonna see anything interesting here from me?" And he said, I might throw a hunter over there into the solo lane, and that's not a hunter to me. It looks like Sun Wukong.
That looks like Sun Wukong. Looks like a monkey. Deathwalker.
Maybe a jungler once, but certainly not a hunter. Oh well, we'll see. Maybe time will tell.
I don't know. It's not feeling like I'm seeing any ranged auto attacks coming out of that solo lane. That looks like a cudgel to me.
Still covers a good bit of distance, but Deathwalker let me down a little bit, but I don't blame him after that strong Game 1 performance out of Black Dragons. I mean, you got to make sure that you're bringing your A game, and Deathwalker going to the Sun Wukong, who can be a bit of a lane bully. When he rotates around, it feels like he does a lot, but maybe not one thing really well. Are they going to get enough out of this pick, Taco?
Ooh, possibly. I think that's something
Beats?
only time will tell, but right now that's mostly what I'm taking a look at. Crystallized Curse is going to get some decent poke damage there onto Vote and Kliz, but a well-placed wall by PIBE going to force out Vote's beats so early on. And at level 1, it's not necessarily as scary as say, around levels 3 and 4, because then you run the risk of getting ganked by the jungler. Speaking of which, Vote now going to jump in aggressively there with that rollout, looking for the Astrals onto PIBE, but not enough to close the gap.
iceicebaby going aggressive as well. His rival putting the pressure on in every single lane. Not going to quite be able to find the kills, but Kliz once more. Vote can't find the shots, not from that range, so PIBE is going to still be standing. But those slows coming out early have caused some problems for this dual lane for Black Dragons.
And a little bit of a late shout-outs here, but shout-outs to the spectator guy on catching that Mage's Blessing start from Deathwalker on the Sun Wukong solo. A little bit unconventional to take an aggressive starting item like that into the solo lane, whereas typically you'd expect to see maybe the Warrior's Blessing or the like. But with his Mage's Blessing, he's going to get some of that cooldown once he manages to evolve it, but I think it's mostly for the mana.
Yeah, for that mana. It is a little bit reminiscent of, remember, like, Wukong was really strong when you could, like, Bluestone as well, right? And get some of that extra, like, ability damage out there that would tick out, so maybe it kind of fills that same gap that Sun Wukongs used to like to enjoy as well, but a unique start coming out from Deathwalker won't be quite as tanky early on as MarcelZ and PIBE drop out some free damage, but the roll in from Vote is going to get the cripple out onto PIBE so he cannot crash through that monolith and try and get some extra damage off.
Still managing to poke out PIBE pretty heavily here, and they're not done just yet. PIBE can be forced into the shell, but it's not going to be enough rollout just to chase him down even further. And the Terra going to end up being the first blood there for Vote.
It was Black Dragons who aggressively looked to try and strip away that purple buff, but they end up paying for it with their lives as Vote and Kliz continue to land every ability, every shot. Those rolls being used very aggressively from Vote, and picks up first blood for the Hunter. That's going to get this ROM off to a great start.
I almost can't blame Black Dragon's duo for wanting to take some initiative there onto that purple buff. They saw that Vote was a little bit poked out. He doesn't have those purification beads online. A nice combo between the Crystallized Curses and Vicious Barrage could end up spelling disaster for Rival, and where we see Vote actually being the first blood kill. It's just that PIBE on the Terra, not enough confirm on those invades, and they didn't even really get close to trying to take down that purple buff either. Just great positioning out of Kliz to really cut them off there.
Yeah, it really feels like the difference maker was that PIBE wasn't able to dash. I'm not sure if the cripple was enough to stop him or if he just had already used it and couldn't get back out, but there was really no way for him to reposition, so Vote was just freely putting in shots that whole time, and it just ended up being too much damage that they took, as Vote now in a good spot here at the beginning of the game.
I believe he just didn't have it up. He didn't have it leveled up yet because he was only level 2 at the time, and he took that wall for the stun early on, and then he had the monolith. Next up, looking for some healing, I think, as opposed to the dash for the panic away dash. And sometimes it's just those split-of-the-moment decisions where you've got to take them, or you got to make them, I should say. And
you got to take them or you got to make them. I like it, Taco.
Oh.
I also like red buffs, but looks like not going to be the case this time.
Well, Wlfy's not gonna get to use that one, but I do think that it's still wise of Black Dragons to try and play more aggressively here. I think that despite PIBE's early spill, they're still in a pretty good spot. Kliz with a great hammer stun going to meet PIBE head on. Stops his back though, which is really all he wanted.
You got to make him or you got to take him? What was it?
Well, because I wanted to say you've got to make those split game decisions, because it's a single moment, you know.
Right.
One second could make all the difference, and the take 'em came out first, and then I backtracked. It was like War Vomit.
That's it forever now for me. That's gonna be my new. You gotta make him or you gotta take him. That's it. That's my new thing.
Oh, the only thing he took there was an L.
That's true. At least Wlfy did, as he watched his red buff be stripped away from him. But unfortunately, for Black Dragons at least, they end up taking that spill in duo lane early on, and Now it's Vote who has a bit of an early lead. Level 5 for Kliz as well over PIBE, who's only level 4 at this point in the game.
This is still going back to that tangent, by the way, but
yeah.
I feel like you can get away with just about anything so long as it rhymes.
Yes, I think that alliteration,
within reason,
rhyme, it definitely makes things sound smarter than they are, right? Like, maybe if you put it in the haiku, it sounds really good too.
If you can haiku every single part of your casting from this moment forward, I'd be pretty impressed, Finch. I'll tell you that much.
It's snowing on Mount Fuji.
Hello? What?
I think that's the line, right?
Oh boy. Well,
we're really out here as Black Dragons try and keep it close here up against Team Rival, but they really have looked close this set so far, Taco. I've really been impressed with their performance, but not surprised. I'm impressed, and I'm glad that they're showing up, but I'm not surprised because we know that this team has been grinding hard. They've been steadily improving, putting themselves in a position where they can just about take games off of top teams.
I think that's a pretty shared sentiment here at the studios today, even, Finch. Just from walking out there and taking a look at all the teams still watching this final set of the day.
That's right.
Take off. It's been pretty interesting because you can just see everybody kind of understanding it and really starting to pull for Black Dragons, I think, right towards the end there. I don't think that a lot of fans back at home have given up hope just yet because Black Dragons, for what it's worth, did look pretty strong there in Game 1.
zGonnZ is going aggressive, looks for the knock-up. Kliz is going to be using that Draconic Corruption so he does not get controlled. Ultimates exchange between the mid laners. PIBE takes one as well as Nann drops his, but Wlfy's the one who's low. zGonnZ goes in aggressive. Aegis keeps him alive for the moment as well as the Shell. Typhoon for the knock-up, and Kliz gets the turnaround.
Just too much peel from this rival squad. Now it's all up to Vote. Stuck in the middle of 4 from Black Dragons. PIBE a little bit low there. Nann with no mana, but the portal right at his feet. Kliz, no trouble at all to take down Vote.
Nice answer back there from Black Dragons after Kliz gets the good kill on zGonnZ early on. You talked about it during that call, man. The peel was there to try and make sure they got Wlfy out of there. The Shell, the Aegis, he had so many tools at his disposal. He elected not to go with the early beads at Aegis, and it pays off for him.
It's easy to get frustrated there also if you're zGonnZ, so you just got to be more reserved, I think, in those situations because that's a kill that you see the red in your eyes and you can tell that you're right on the edge of taking it home, but it's just too risky, I think, at times. Whenever you see the members of Rivals start to really collapse around Wlfy to look for the body blocks, to look for the extra protections, it's difficult as the Ratatoskr to dash through all of that. You're more likely than not going to end up clipping somebody else on the side, which I believe is the exact situation that occurred there for zGonnZ.
And you're right, so right to bring up the mental state because Rival are not going to get tilted. That's a team that even if they lose, even if they get stomped, they're laughing, they're blaming AJ or something like that. You know, they're just going to make sure they keep that mentality positive on their team, so you can't allow yourself to get frustrated either if things don't go the way that you think they perhaps should have, as zGonnZ very nearly did have Wlfy dead to rights, but just barely couldn't get it. Make sure you keep that mentality, that focus that got you so close in Game 1, and give yourself the best shot you can here in Game 2.
And despite all that aggression that happened for the first few minutes there.
Look at Deathwalker's build.
Things have slowed down just a little bit here. Soul Eater as that secondary item for the Sun Wukong. This is an aggressive build. It's not so much it's a bit wacky.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not, cut straight to the chase here. Speaking of wacky though, Kliz a little bit out of position and looking to get chased down, but through space and time, right in the nick of time, gonna make sure that he gets out to safety.
You have to use those 2 ultimates defensively, as really it was only Deathwalkers that was committed, so he can get that CC immunity, I believe, and continue on with the chase. But this Soul Eater is gonna work. I mean, Wukong is gonna be spamming his abilities, getting off the cudgels all the time, going in for the Master's Will. So, I mean, maybe there's some synergy here.
The only part that's really pretty out there is the fact that, some Wukong with 10% physical lifesteal.
He's going to be getting heals back off the abilities. That's the idea. It's like Glad Shield, right? How do you kill him?
Well, this might be how. Deathwalker doesn't have his ultimate available right now. Kliz and the gang looking to fall down on top of the Sun Wukong, and he's not very tanky. Looking to bird form away, but this time around, it's going to be Kliz putting another one up on the board there for Black Dragons.
Yeah, if you're not going to make it, then you got to take it, and Deathwalker, unable to in the solo lane, gets punished beyond that Tier 1 tower and ends up going back to base. Now it looks like he very might be looking for the Glad Shield, perhaps even Void Shield at this point as he starts working on that tree, but he'll have plenty of time to figure out what he wants to do as he looks at the game in black and white.
Kliz waiting for the right time to look for that hammer stun, and it will connect, but not for the Oracles, unfortunately. And just as quickly as we saw Deathwalker falling, we might see the same case happen here again for PIBE. Vote gonna manage to find him. zGonnZ cleans up Vote for rolling forward. And Kliz, the lone survivor out of that trade from Rivals Duo.
An iceicebaby wants Kliz. Unfortunately, he will not be able to find him, who makes it back to the Tier 1 tower. Nann looking to strip away the red buff. That also not be successful as Deathwalker picks it up and very nearly strips down Nann, who has to take all those portals to escape. iceicebaby now looking for the trade with zGonnZ, but maybe more than he was looking for. Final Judgment! Almost enough, but not quite.
One more half a second.
That's it.
That's all that Wlfy needed. That was
man.
A very preemptive final judgment. And you're right, Finch. A little bit of protections also. Those magical prots, if zGonnZ didn't have those, he is pretty much dead by rights there.
Yeah, if he had done anything else, Crusher or something else in that slot, I think he's dead there. But unfortunately, you're right that those magical prots definitely come in big to keep him just barely alive, as Wlfy didn't quite have the damage. But fortunately for them, it's not too much loss. It's 3-3, 11.5 minutes in here.
Take a look at Deathwalker, his next item on the map. He's started building off, and the question is, Glad Shield, Void Shield, I mean, even Shifters in the mix of the realm possibilities here. Deathwalker, though, going forward, forced up into the cloud there by the rest of Black Dragons. He's now looking for a quick escape, but will get portaled instead.
Could potentially even get ulted on as up in the air as zGonnZ, but he wants the back line as they do get some good damage coming through. But zGonnZ is the one that falls. iceicebaby and Vote working together. PIBE in a little bit of trouble as well as the root comes out. Damage over the wall from Wlfy is not enough, but they've already grabbed their only kill in the form of zGonnZ.
zGonnZ's bloodthirst is just coming back to haunt him time and time again. Speaking of which, iceicebaby just now spotting out PIBE, but fortunately enough for PIBE, he will get that back off in time. Can't say the same about this Gold Fury, however. Kliz looking to defend, but he isn't the most healthy Chulainn in the world.
The lone Kliz, the only one who can go in and try and defend, has that Rage transformation coming soon. Nann gets Kliz as well as Kliz finds a Wlfy. 2 big kills come out from Black Dragons for the clap back, but he is going to end up falling to iceicebaby. MarcelZ has rotated in to slow him down. No Gold Fury for Rival, at least not yet.
I think Kliz might have been expecting the rest of his team to come with that through space and time, because he kind of hung around that Gold Fury pit, alluding to maybe wanting to brawl a little bit longer, and then he realizes that was my escape route and just hesitated a little bit too long to take it.
Yeah, that was not the rally call, that was the retreat call, I suppose, and instead, Kliz kind of sticks around a little bit too long and ends up falling, but in the end it ends up even. 5-5 are the kills overall, as well as Rival have a very small lead, about 700 gold, 400 experience. This one's still very close as it was in Game 1.
The important part also is that Kliz did manage to effectively prevent Rival from securing that Gold Fury. It was down to about 50% health, and they thought better of it because he bought enough time for Nann to get that ultimate off. And now, zGonnZ still on the retreat. This blue buff looking prime for the taking here, as iceicebaby will manage to confirm that one for Deathwalker also. And Deathwalker, it was the Gladiator Shield that he chose to pick up. This is just a really aggressive solo lane build right now. Not a whole lot of protections on the table for this Wukong, kind of relying on that ultimate, I think, if he needs to get out of a tight situation. But very importantly to note, he does have 30% cooldown right now.
That's right. He's going to be getting those abilities off all the time, trying to stay a little bit sustained up, perhaps, is going to be the call as Deathwalker is on the way over. Kliz gets here just a little bit sooner to make sure that Tier 1 tower stays standing. The clap does catch the evade and punish, and I think that's what zGonnZ is recognizing. Typhoon has been channeled, but he knocks up no one, instead gets pulled back in and pays for it with his life.
As soon as you see the Typhoon, that's got to be enough signal to back off. Kliz with a double kill now onto PIBE, still looking to push forward. Kliz can't find anything else just yet. He's going to end up getting controlled, and much like the fate of his teammates, forced to back off.
Yeah, he's essentially alone here, so he needs to look for the retreat. Ice blinks back in for the pull. Damage from Wlfy from downtown, and Kliz falls as well. 3 seemingly easy kills come out for Team Rival as Nann and MarcelZ have to fall back.
And I was starting to mention it earlier, Finch, prior to iceicebaby pushing up onto PIBE, but zGonnZ has just played this Ratatoskr way too aggressively so early on, and I understand you want to play aggressively on the Ratatoskr. Speaking of which, Black Dragon's not going to be successful in their steal attempt onto that Gold Fury. It was the best that they could make do of in the moment, so Rival only further extending their lead, and it just feels like a lead that Black Dragons has kind of handed them to an extent.
zGonnZ definitely has been going in aggressively, but sometimes just to the point of being too aggressive. More times than not, I'd rather have my jungler trying to make the plays than not. But as you said, once that Typhoon came down on top of Wlfy, there was essentially 0% chance of that being successful.
Even with the dash having been cut off, I think that Wlfy had managed to close enough space between the T1 tower line and the rest of Black Dragons. That through space and time, through the Cosmos, it wasn't just one tick of it, and then suddenly he was there count up to Wlfy. He did it all 3 times to close the gap, so the rest of Black Dragons, even if they'd wanted to be, were just not close enough to follow up.
And I get it too, because it's a great wall from PIBE that he just wants to follow up with, right, and make something happen from, because PIBE is the one who catches Wlfy during the evade and punish, but the opportunity wasn't there. They kind of forced it, and that does end up hurting Black Dragons, as now Rival have about 4,000 or so gold experience out in the lead. Deathwalker, though, fighting underneath the tier 2 tower. Remember, not quite as tanky as warriors typically are, but he will fall back A-okay.
Those little misplays, though, at the start are going to be what end up really suffocating Black Dragons as the match draws on, because this, to me, feels a little bit more like a slow bleed from Rival. Speaking of which, Kliz now under fire one more time. Just going to get absolutely destroyed by that evade and punish out of Wlfy, even with Deathwalker taking credit for the kill.
zGonnZ, you've been saying you've been aggressive, and he thinks better of jumping into 4 members there. Pyromancer should be going the way of Black Dragons, but look at MarcelZ. He's grabbed this tier 2 tower over on the duo lane side, and tier 1 in mid is pretty low as well. Even though Black Dragons couldn't stop that Pyro, they get some answers back.
Probably the most promising thing that's happened for Black Dragons all game is MarcelZ opening up the map a little bit more by taking down that T2. PIBE, though, in a whole lot of trouble. Only level 11 to Wlfy's 15, so you know he's got to back out of that one.
Yeah, at this point, Wlfy really is starting to chunk, and you just do not want to have to deal with it if you're on the side of Black Dragons. But I'm right there with you, Taco. MarcelZ is certainly spelling out a way for Black Dragons to stay relevant in this. He is going with the crit build, it looks like, with that Poison Star started off, as opposed to Vote, who's going to be going more of the attack speed pen route. So they can play around this late game Chernobog with that very potent steroid.
I like this choice from Vote also, because even though he has an attack speed steroid and it might seem like a little bit of overkill, the chin size and executioner combo going to be necessary. Kliz very open about opting for those thorns, and his build purely focused around trying to stand in front of Vote, I think, throughout the duration of some Phoenix and Tower sieges once it gets to that point. So if he's got to play Hunter Patrol, then Vote's got to find a way to break through it.
And he doesn't have to worry too much about Kliz. I mean, look how far behind he is, as opposed to where not just Deathwalkers, but everyone else is. MarcelZ gets pretty heavily out-traded, maybe not. Goes up into the air to look for the snipes, but so does MarcelZ. Now, where will he come back down? If he stays stationary, he could be in trouble, but he makes it back out. Not, and PIBE rotate in, and they punish Vote for this trade.
But now they've got to get away. iceicebaby going to blink right on top of Nann, and while it looked like a great portal at force, he's still alive, but the Typhoon, just too much burst damage. Quick and easy double kill for the Susano.
What a huge play from iceice to find the double, and now they're the ones aggressing beyond the tier 1 tower. Wlfy can't find MarcelZ, who's too far back, but they are threatening this tier 1. Meanwhile, Deathwalker with a potential chance for the solo kill. Tiger stun, not gonna land. That might have been enough to set it up by himself, but Kliz has the knock-up still available.
Kliz has the knock-up, but Deathwalker has the ult, and I'm not sure he's going to dive in. No, he's still going forward, and with the cleanup on that roundabout, and Deathwalker from one side of the map to the next, there is no real escape for Kliz when you've fallen this far behind.
Tier 1 tower in duo falls. Tier 1 tower long ago fell over in solo, as we saw that Tiger stun come up big for him, but he built into the Hide of the Urchin, I believe, was the most recent item Deathwalker's picked up. So now he's got a little bit of extra protections coming that way once he's able to get a few more stacks on it. Remember, not quite as many needed as once before, so he certainly has a chance to still get to tankiness, even with the interesting build path he's gone so far.
And there's a lot to be said about a Sun Wukong that can play this aggressively also. Just
Level
look at the
19.
zoning duty. He not only takes zGonnZ's speed buff, but now he's just harassing PIBE, trying to keep them locked away from this Fire Giant pit. Can't stop the Ratatoskr ultimate from happening, but they are going to make sure that zGonnZ regrets his decision instantly.
Immediately gets blown up. Remember, MarcelZ is split pushing in duo. He won't be a part of this as Nann gets controlled by Deathwalker with the Tiger Stun. Takes the portal. It is short enough for him to be able to make it away as PIBE creates enough space for him, but all the while, Vote is burning down the Fire Giant. They turn towards Kliz. He has thorns, but Vote is undeterred and shreds him down. The second kill of this fight for Team Arrival. But MarcelZ's going to keep looking for the Phoenix. That's enough for Wlfy to have to back.
That's enough for Wlfy to have to back, but the rest of Rival is still going. Vote with the double kill off of that Astral Barrage there onto PIBE. 3 members dead from Black Dragons, although zGonnZ is due to respawn here pretty soon. Deathwalker takes a pretty chunk of his health bar because of that unstable vortex, but he still has that Sun Wukong ultimate. He feels so unkillable.
He might just be unkillable at this point. He did take that one spill, but it feels like a distant memory when at this point, he's just so tanky. We saw the healing coming back up for him as well once he got up into the somersault cloud. And really, he was able to escape with no real trouble. Team Rival now weren't able to drop the Fire Giant, but they did win the fight rather handily.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword if you're in Vote's position, because while you have great shred potential against the likes of PIBE, zGonnZ, Kliz, you're also sacrificing some of that objective control and sieging possibilities there. Nann forced out of that through space and time early on. That's a free Fire Giant all day long. Highly doubt that we're going to see Black Dragons try super hard to contest this one, but zGonnZ, then again, could make me eat those words right now.
Looks like Team Rival should be able to grab this one, though. Up into the air is going to go zGonnZ, but he's too little too late. PIBE is getting chunked, but a great knockup from Kliz, followed up. Only means that PIBE is the one that ends up falling. They just didn't have enough. Wlfy does end up dying to Kliz in return. It's 1-for-1 so far, but MarcelZ can't quite find the shots. Kliz is getting chipped down lower and lower. Deathwalker goes up and comes right back down, but it's Vote who's on the rampage.
Vote ended up getting cut off there by zGonnZ. Nice blink in from the Ratatoskr, but now it's zGonnZ left by... Never mind.
Not left by himself. He's gone entirely, joining his friends for the full-on DSI taco. Callis, Ice, and Deathwalker are still standing, but they have lost their carries. It'll be a little bit harder for them to push without Wlfy and Vote's damage to help out, but Team Rival still relatively cleanly winning the fights.
T2 and Solo should definitely end up falling here. iceicebaby as the Susano. He's got enough damage, I think, against these structures where he should be able to split push that mid lane T2 by himself. Not sure that he'll fully commit to it, however. Maybe just looking to get those waves shoved up in Rival's favor. And now with Wlfy and Vote soon to respawn also, Rival probably just going to end up grouping and then looking for the stage of sieging pretty much.
Yeah, it's just too much damage, I feel like, coming out at this point for Team Rival. Like, PIBE can't stand in the damage. Kliz really can't either, even with the Thorns at this point in the game. I mean, that fight got so out of control for Black Dragons so quickly.
If Black Dragons were still even in experience, I think that fight is a lot more of a 50-50 toss-up, because Black Dragons did have a nice combination going there. I mean, the entirety of Rival groups up on top of each other. zGonnZ lands down on top of all of them, and then you see the final, or you see the Janus unstable vortex with the follow-up, but it just wasn't enough damage. Black Dragon still just a little bit too far behind, I think, to really have that huge team fighting impact that you're looking for.
It was nice they used everything on top of each other. I just don't know if it was staggered quite enough. Kliz and zGonnZ kind of land their knockups at the exact same time, and they don't really get maybe as much out of them as they could, but they definitely had Rival all grouped up, and they just didn't have the damage to finish them off. As now Rival Taco, they're grouped up to try and push down this left side Phoenix. Remember, this is the exact Phoenix that Black Dragons pushed them off on in Game 2, or Game 1 rather. Can they do it here in Game 2 as Vote is putting in damage onto the structure?
Might be a little bit of a separate story here. Vote being the one leading the charge even on that ROM, playing pretty confidently as the hunter, and now Kliz is going to take up the mantle here to lead the charge, and just like that, MarcelZ ends up getting blown right up back to base.
He's the first one that ends up falling, but there's plenty of low health bars for Black Dragon. Deathwalker on the right-hand side wants Nann, and Cudgel gets it done. Vote finds the shot on the Kliz, and Wlfy is not done yet. Evade and punish is going to land on the zGonnZ. He gets pulled back in, and unstoppable is iceicebaby. Only PIBE is left standing to watch, unfortunately, as the Titan comes tumbling down. Team Rival, after that tough Game 1, bounce back and look dominant here in Game 2.
And it's hard to recover in these sort of situations, Finch, because Black Dragons really went all in there in game number 1. And
yes.
I still firmly believe that that was anybody's game for the taking. And had Black Dragons managed to find the victory there in game 1, I think we see a little bit of a different game 2. I don't think that Rival would have dropped game 2 necessarily, because
sure,
that would have also, you know, provoked them to come out with a bit of a vengeance, so to say. But I definitely don't think that we saw just everything out of Black Dragons. It's still pretty early on. Also, they are going to be knocked down into the lower bracket, so they've got a chance.
Absolutely. I think that if you're Black Dragons, you can still feel somewhat encouraged by that performance. Game 1 was so close, and you showed just how strong you can play. Game 2, maybe not as close, as Rival looked to be in control of that one for most part, but Black Dragons certainly showed they're here to play. You know, they didn't get beaten that easily, and Rival showed they could also bounce back after that tough loss and come back in and kind of clamp down in Game 2 and make sure they're performing at their best.
Definitely didn't feel like Rival was willing to take any more chances after what happened there in game number 1. It felt a little bit more clean for sure out of Rival, kind of more towards the expected gameplay that you want to see out of Rival, considering how, well, veteran status this team is by now.
Yeah, they definitely had a strong performance in that game, but somebody stood out a little bit more than everyone else, and that's who you all will be selecting as your MVP, or at least I hope you will. Usually you get it right there, Mixer Chat, so I trust you on this one.
I think it's hard to call it, though, for this time around also, but iceicebaby, maybe?
Yeah, iceice had an excellent game. That's a great point. I don't even think he died the entire game. Towards the end, he was looking quite dominant, but we'll get a little bit more thoughts on that one from the analysts as they break it down.
Hey, what's up, folks? Back here one more time. Tom and Anatoly Alexeyenok bringing you the business for the end of the day. 4 matches in the books, and this one goes to Team Rival.
It's not unheard of when Rival has performances like this, even against international Black Dragons that looked so strong and solid in game number 1, but couldn't really continue that action in game number 2.
Yeah, these are the stats for game number 1. We'll get game number 2 on the way in just a little bit. But, well, the result was the same. Unfortunately, Black Dragons unable to bring the victory home for Brazil, so they'll be knocked down to the secondary bracket. Don't forget, this is double elim,
yes,
so they do have a second chance.
Another chance. They're going to have to go face off with one of the other international teams that lost prior to today. But looking at game number 2 stats, going from the Ratatoskr game 1 to number 2, iceicebaby 7-0 and 13. Really making it happen. An interesting build from Deathwalker, going for the Soul Eater and the Gladiator Shield combination, and the late game ROM presence from Vote.
You called it, man, and I got to give credit where credit is due, Toli. 10 points to you. iceicebaby bringing out the assassin here, the Susano just crushing it, but he will be overshadowed by Deathwalker, and we're going to show some replays, but Toli, I want you to get into it. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, so I don't necessarily need exact numbers, but a very interesting build, 2 healing items on the Sun Wukong instead of straight tank.
It's a build where you have an advantage early game, and you can leverage that by continuing some more physical power and going for this hybrid build. Utilizing the Sun Wukong passive once you go under 50% health, gaining protections, gaining power, meaning that your abilities are hitting harder from the scaling. Now, you're still going to be taking more damage than you are healing at the end of the day, but considering how far behind Black Dragons were, that number was still going to be out-healed.
And so Sun Wukong is a mid-game monster, as I like to say, and also he's in the group of solo laners that I think need to do damage, right? If you're going to pick a chalk and you're not building any offense, I think you're doing it wrong. You need at least one hybrid item. I think you need to do that sort of thing on the Sun Wukong as well. And so I was really into this, and, you know, to bring a different game into it felt like a death knight, right? Your mitigation by way of healing.
Yeah, and also High Diversion was the great hybrid item with how much fighting there was, with how many kills. Rival were just accumulating, stacking it very quickly.
Rival takes a victory. Let's hear what they have to say.
The quadra is ball.
All right, I'm here with Rivals Duo Lane, Vote and Callis, or rather Callis and Vote if you want to start from the left. First off, that game one got a little bit close there towards the end. Was there any worry at all in the comms, or did y'all know you'd be able to pull it out either way?
I knew we'd win. I knew I just about the team. I can't speak. What the?
Hello?
Sure, I'll answer because apparently he is stunned still. We definitely didn't think it's gonna go that close. We definitely made a lot of mistakes along the line. First blooded in dueling, for example. But we did think that we were gonna win. After all, you know, I was an Aries, so.
I think that most people aren't too surprised to hear you guys have that level of confidence in yourselves, but what's the team environment like after having such a nail-biting game one, heading into game two, and things still being a little uncertain at the start?
When you've got people like Deathwalker, it's just, you're always laughing because he doesn't have a brain. So he just says whatever.
Well, speaking of Deathwalker, can y'all talk to us a little bit about his game to build with the Sun Wukong, you know, going with the Soul Eater? I mean, he's always doing his own thing. Does he talk to you all about that at all, or just kind of do his own thing over there?
He claims his Soul Eater is OP.
He claims that build is OP and that Wukong is OP. So, who am I to argue, right? He's the soul laner. I guess he knows.
But now that day one is sealed away in the books and you guys are good to go, it's going to be E-United up next. So we've got a friendly little rematch going on. How are you guys feeling heading into that one?
Easy. Well, maybe not easy. We're going to win though. That's for sure.
That easy for you as well, Callis?
It's going to be 2-1 for us, I think. I think it's going to be a fun set to play yet again.
All right, well, confident as always. We look forward to that rematch. Again, thank you all for coming in for the interview, and again, good luck in your next set.
Thank you.
Thanks.
An interesting interview from both Callis and Vote, and OP Wukong, OP Soul Eater. I think there's some fake news in the air because I don't expect day 2 or 3, 4 for that Sun Wukong to be locked in or that build to be continued.
You know, it's funny, guys. You can take the player off the battlefield, but you can't ever take the player out of the caster. I'm sitting here with Tolly, both watching the game. During the build, he was criticizing it. Walking up to the desk, he was just sitting there like, I don't know.
He's not doing it against the United. I guarantee it. It's not happening.
Let me look at the bracket. I need to be distracted from Anatoly real quick. North America and Europe wind up on top here. All of our international teams are on the bottom side. Atletico will take on Black Dragon. Ooh. Get on my level, we'll take on Nocturnes, but Atletico will take on Black Dragons. Honestly, I think that one's going to be really spicy. BD, we just saw them put on a performance versus Rival despite the loss. And then I've been talking to some of my trusted analysts here, and a lot of people think Atletico is one of the more competitive teams that have ever come out of the Oceanic region.
We'll see, because the way they were tested today was against an E-United team that was not playing at even close to their 100% level with the picks that they were doing, with the builds that they were experimenting with. I think that Atletico did not get a fair chance to, get a competitive set. So I think against Black Dragons, that could be the first demonstration for them. But in the upper bracket side, Energy, Space Station, E-United, Rival, I have my eyes on that Worlds rematch, the spring, I think it was semifinals rematch as well, where E-United lost 1-2, where Rival won the set, and then E-United couldn't really overcome in the lower bracket.
So tomorrow we're going to get a chance to look at Get On My Level, Atletico Black Dragons. We're going to see those two teams on the bottom end play, and then we also get to see the top side, Energy versus Space Station, and then E-United versus Team Rival. A lot of slobber knockers on the way.
Definitely, and like I said, that E-United Rival set should be the most competitive one. It's the Worlds rematch. It's a little bit of a Springland rematch, and I think that whoever wins that set is going to win the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Black Dragon set. Like I said, I love to watch Nann, but also Nocturnes. I got to be straight up. I was disappointed in what I saw out of the Black and Orange. I think that Smite Terra and Beltway are excellent players, and I just don't think that we got to see them on their A game. Whatever variable it was, I was disappointed from Nocturne. I expect more, so I think we'll see a better time tomorrow.
They didn't have their Smoothie King in the morning, It's right there next to their hotel. They messed up.
The players always talk about it, but either way, fantastic way to start off the day. Games going in the direction that I think a lot of people expected them to, but some surprises. Any notable moments for you?
I think the fact that E-United was so willing to experiment was the most notable for me.
Yeah, United just going a little bit out of bounds and everything staying in bounds. That was last week, inbound 1. Fantastic time here on the PC side of things for Anatoly, my 4 other casters, everybody backstage, everybody on stage, and everybody in chat. We'll catch you tomorrow. Peace, and much love to you.